The conference room at the Ritz-Carlton felt like a tomb. 24 hours ago I was CEO of Morgan Digital Solutions, the cybersecurity firm I'd built from the ground up over 15 years. Now I sat here watching my younger brother Michael systematically destroy everything I'd created. I'm Alexandra Morgan, Alex to most people, and at 42 I thought I'd experienced all the betrayal life could throw at me. I was wrong. It's clear that Alex is in no condition to lead the company. Michael's voice carried across the mahogany table, his words hitting me like physical blows. Since Claire's death 3 months ago, she's been erratic, missing meetings, making impulsive decisions. We need stable leadership to protect our shareholders' interests. Claire. My wife's name in his mouth made my hands clench under the table. He'd barely attended her funeral, claiming pressing business in Dubai. Now he was using her death as a weapon against me. The board members avoided my gaze, shuffling papers and fidgeting with their water glasses. Most of them had been with me since the beginning, when Morgan Digital was just 3 people working out of my garage. They'd attended my wedding to Claire 5 years ago, sent flowers when she was diagnosed with cancer, written heartfelt condolence cards when she died. But business is business, and Michael had spent the last 3 months methodically poisoning the well. Just last week, he continued, Alex approved a merger with Hayes Technology without proper due diligence. The company's financials are questionable at best. This kind of reckless behavior could sink us. I bit back a laugh. The Hayes merger had been in the works for over a year. Claire, our chief financial officer before her illness, had personally vetted their books. The deal was solid. Michael knew that because he'd been copying my emails for months. Furthermore, he pulled out a thick folder. I have documentation of concerning behavior. Angry outbursts in meetings, irrational decisions, possible substance abuse. This time I did laugh, a short, sharp sound that made several board members jump. Substance abuse, Michael? Really? He gave me that smile, the one that hadn't changed since we were kids, and he was blaming me for the broken window he'd caused. The evidence speaks for itself, Alex. I'm only thinking of what's best for the company. For the family. Family. Such a loaded word coming from him. Our parents died when Michael was 16 and I was 20. I'd put my own dreams on hold, taken over Dad's struggling computer repair business to put Michael through college. Transformed that small shop into a multimillion-dollar cybersecurity firm. Given him a job straight out of business school when no one else would touch him after that scandal with his college funds. I moved to temporarily suspend Alexandra Morgan from her position as CEO, Michael announced, pending a full psychological evaluation and review of her fitness to lead. Gerald Wu, our longest-serving board member, cleared his throat. This is unprecedented, Michael. Alex founded this company. She's led us through every crisis, including the ransomware attack last year. Which is why this is so difficult. Michael's voice dripped with fake concern. But we have a duty to our shareholders, our employees, and most importantly to Alex herself. She needs time to grieve, to heal. Running a company of this size, it's too much pressure right now. I could see the board wavering. Michael had always been the charming one, able to spin any situation to his advantage. I remained silent, my hand brushing against the phone in my pocket, making sure it was still recording. The vote, when it came, wasn't even close. 9-3 in favor of my suspension. Only Gerald and 2 others voted against it. Michael would be interim CEO effectively immediately. Alex. Gerald caught up with me in the parking garage afterward, his face lined with worry. This isn't right. We all know you're more than capable. It's fine, Gerald. I cut him off, keeping my voice neutral. Security cameras were everywhere, and I had no doubt Michael was already having me watched. Maybe they're right. Maybe I do need some time off. He studied my face. You're taking this very calmly. I smiled, thinking of the encrypted laptop in my home office, the one Claire had helped me set up before she died. I learned from the best. Claire always said the time to worry isn't when I'm showing emotion. It's when I'm completely calm. Understanding flickered in his eyes. Gerald had known Claire even longer than I had. They'd worked at the same investment firm before she joined Morgan Digital. He nodded slowly. Take care of yourself, Alex. And check your old email accounts. Sometimes important things get lost in archived folders. I drove home to the house Claire and I had shared, now painfully empty without her presence. Our housekeeper Maria had left dinner in the warming oven, but I couldn't eat. Instead, I went straight to my office and booted up the encrypted laptop. Claire had known she was dying for months before she told anyone else. In that time she'd been busy. As CFO, she had access to everything, every account, every transaction, every email. She'd watched Michael's machinations unfold and quietly gathered evidence. "He's making his move," she told me in her final week, her voice weak but her mind sharp as ever. "Promise me you'll let him think he's winning. Promise me you'll wait for the right moment." I'd promised, not understanding then what she meant. But as I clicked through the folders she'd meticulously organized, labeled with her characteristic attention to detail, I began to see the pattern. The offshore accounts, the shell companies, the diverted funds. Michael hadn't just been planning a corporate takeover. He'd been systematically embezzling for years. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I recognized the encryption pattern. Gerald, using the secure messaging system Claire had set up. Checked the archives. Found interesting correspondence from Dubai office certain financial irregularities. Thought you should know, board meeting moved up. 2 weeks from today. Full shareholder attendance required. I smiled, remembering Claire's words. The best revenge isn't just exposing the truth, it's letting them dig their own graves first. Opening my desk drawer, I pulled out the last letter Claire had written me, the paper worn from countless readings. "My darling," it began, "by the time you read this I'll be gone. But I'm leaving you with the weapons you need to fight back. Just remember, patience is more than a virtue, it's a strategy." I touched the silver locket around my neck, the one containing a tiny photo of Claire and a USB drive with copies of everything. 2 weeks, I whispered. I can be patient for 2 more weeks. Upstairs, I could hear Maria moving around, probably worried that I hadn't touched my dinner. The house felt less empty with her quiet presence. She'd been with us through everything: Claire's diagnosis, the brutal months of treatment, the final days. She was family in all the ways Michael had never been. My phone buzzed again. "Michael, this time. Hope you understand this is for the best, sis. Take some time, get help. The company's in good hands." I left him on read, turning instead to the wall of photos Claire had insisted we maintain in the digital age. There we were at the company's launch party, young and terrified but determined. Claire and me on our wedding day, both in white dresses, laughing at some forgotten joke. The whole team celebrating our first major government contract. And there, almost hidden behind a more recent photo, was one of Michael and me as kids, before our parents' accident. He was looking up at me with pure adoration, his big sister who could do no wrong. When had that adoration turned to resentment? When had protecting him turned into enabling his worst instincts? I touched Claire's face in our wedding photo. "I miss you," I whispered. "But I promise you I won't let him destroy what we built." Maria appeared in the doorway, concern etched on her kind face. "Senora Alex, you should eat something. Mrs. Claire would want you to keep up your strength." He was right, of course. Claire would tell me to think strategically, to stay sharp. I followed Maria to the kitchen where she reheated dinner and sat with me while I ate, chatting about her grandchildren, the garden, anything but business. Later, lying in bed, I pulled out my tablet and began reviewing the files Claire had left me. In 2 weeks I would have my chance. Until then, I would do what Claire had taught me: prepare meticulously, watch carefully, and let my brother think he'd won. After all, the best victories are the ones your opponents never see coming until it's too late. Part 2. The 2 weeks before the board meeting passed in a carefully orchestrated dance. During the day, I played the part Michael expected: the grieving widow too consumed by loss to fight back. I took long walks in the park, had publicly visible lunch meetings with a therapist, actually a forensic accountant Claire had trusted, and made sure I was photographed looking appropriately distressed at Claire's favorite cafe. But at night in my home office I was at war. Claire had left me an intricate map of Michael's deceptions. For 5 years he'd been siphoning company funds through a network of shell corporations, all carefully hidden behind legitimate-looking transactions. The pattern was brilliant in its simplicity: small amounts, nothing that would trigger automatic alerts, but adding up to millions. "Your brother's smart," Gerald said during one of our encrypted video calls, but Claire was smarter. She found his pattern because she knew exactly how she would have hidden it if she were doing something illegal. Claire always said the best CFOs think like criminals. I smiled, remembering her wry humor. She just used her powers for good instead of evil. The piece de resistance came 3 days before the board meeting. An email from our Dubai office, forwarded by Gerald, showed Michael had been cooking up this takeover for months. He'd been meeting with our competitors, promising to sell them proprietary technology once he had control. "He's getting sloppy," Gerald observed. "Too confident." "Good," I replied. "Let him be." The morning of the board meeting, I dressed with particular care, Claire's favorite navy suit, her pearls, the wedding ring I now wore on a chain next to the locket. Maria helped me style my hair, her steady hands a comfort. "Mrs. Claire would be proud," she said, adjusting my collar. "She always said you were strongest when people thought you were broken." The boardroom was packed. Michael had insisted on full shareholder attendance, probably wanting witnesses to what he assumed would be his final triumph. He barely glanced at me as I took my seat, too busy glad-handing investors. "Before we begin," he announced once everyone was seated, "I want to address the elephant in the room. My sister's temporary removal as CEO, while painful, was necessary. The psychological evaluation confirms what we feared. She's not currently fit to lead." I watched him pull out a thick document with what appeared to be a doctor's letterhead. A nice touch, but ultimately unnecessary. I had something better. "Actually," I said, speaking for the first time, "I'd like to make a presentation first." Michael's smile was condescending. "Alex, you're not in charge anymore. You're here as a courtesy." According to company bylaws, Gerald interrupted smoothly, any shareholder can present relevant business concerns at a full board meeting. Alex remains our largest individual shareholder. I stood, picking up the remote for the presentation screen. What I'm about to show you is the result of a 5-year internal audit, conducted by our late CFO, Claire Morgan. The color drained from Michael's face. For the next hour I laid out everything. The shell companies, the diverted funds, the secret meetings with competitors. Every transaction, every email, every offshore account meticulously documented by Claire and verified by forensic accountants. In total, I concluded, approximately $27 million has been embezzled from Morgan Digital Solutions through various fraudulent means. And that's just what we've found so far. The room was dead silent. Michael had started sweating, his expensive shirt showing dark patches under the arms. "This is ridiculous," he sputtered. "You can't prove." "Actually," Gerald stood, holding up a USB drive, "we can. This contains Claire Morgan's complete investigation, including recordings of your meetings in Dubai where you offered to sell our encryption technology to CloudGuard systems." One of the shareholders, a retired judge, leaned forward. "Are you saying Claire Morgan knew about this before her death?" "Yes," I said softly. "She discovered the embezzlement during a routine audit last year. Instead of confronting Michael immediately, she chose to build an airtight case. She knew he would try something like this after she was gone." "This is all lies," Michael shouted, jumping to his feet. "You're obviously having some kind of breakdown." "Mr. Morgan," Gerald's voice cut through the chaos, "I suggest you sit down. The FBI agents waiting outside would be very interested in your version of events." As if on cue, the boardroom doors opened. 2 agents in dark suits entered, badges visible. "This is insane," Michael looked around wildly. "You can't do this. I'm interim Sue." "Actually," I pressed another button on the remote, displaying the psychological evaluation he'd presented earlier. "You're not. This document, it's forged. The doctor whose signature appears on it died 3 years ago. That's fraud, Michael. Added to the embezzlement, the corporate espionage, the attempted sale of proprietary technology. Well, I'm sure the agents can explain the charges better than I can." What followed was both terrible and deeply satisfying. Michael led away in handcuffs, alternating between threats and pleas. Emergency shareholders meetings. Press releases to draft. Damage control to begin. Hours later I finally made it home. Maria was waiting with dinner and a glass of Claire's favorite wine. "Mrs. Claire left this for you," she said, handing me an envelope I'd never seen before. "She said to give it to you after you won." Inside was a single photograph, Claire and me on our first day working together at Morgan Digital, both laughing as we unpacked boxes in that garage office. On the back, in her elegant handwriting, "The best revenge is massive success. I love you. C." I traced her words with my finger, tears finally falling freely. "We did it, my love. The next few months were a blur of legal proceedings, restructuring, and rebuilding trust with our clients. Michael took a plea deal, facing 15 years in federal prison. Most of the embezzled funds were recovered from his offshore accounts. Gerald retired, but not before helping me establish the Claire Morgan Foundation, providing scholarships for women in technology and business. The first recipient was Maria's granddaughter, studying computer science at MIT. 1 year to the day after the board meeting, I stood in my office, our office, looking at the wall of photos. Claire's face smiled back at me from a dozen moments frozen in time. I'd added a new picture, the foundation's first scholarship ceremony. My phone buzzed with a text from Gerald. "Claire would be proud of you, Alex. Not just for taking down Michael, but for what you've built from the ashes." He was right. The company was stronger than ever, our ethical oversight programs now industry standard. The betrayal still hurt, but like Claire always said, sometimes you have to break something completely to rebuild it better. I touched the locket containing her picture and the USB drive. I still wore it, though its contents were no longer secret. "Thank you," I whispered, not sure if I was talking to Claire or to the universe in general. Maria appeared in my doorway, reminding me it was time for the foundation's board meeting. As I gathered my things, I glanced one last time at the photo wall. The picture of Michael and me as children was still there, now serving as a different kind of reminder. Not of betrayal, but of lessons learned. That family is more than blood, that love is stronger than greed, and that sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about building something beautiful from the wreckage they leave behind. Later that night, I sat in Claire's favorite spot in our garden, where Maria had kept her roses blooming. The evening air was soft with early summer, carrying the scent of flowers Claire had planted but never got to see bloom. "I wish you were here," I said to the empty chair beside me. "But in a way you never left. You're in every line of code, every policy, every decision I make." My phone buzzed with an update from our Dubai office. Another successful contract, another step forward. Life goes on, as Claire would say. The trick is making sure it goes on your terms, not someone else's. I raised my glass to the stars, a private toast to absent loves and hard-won victories. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles, new opportunities to build and grow. But tonight, in this garden Claire created, surrounded by the life we built together, I was at peace. Some people say revenge is a dish best served cold. But Claire taught me something better. Revenge isn't about the serving temperature. It's about making sure that when you serve it, you do so with style, strategy, and enough evidence to fill a federal indictment. Michael's mistake wasn't just betraying me. It was underestimating the power of the love between two women who had spent their lives building something worth fighting for. In the end, he never understood that true strength isn't in what you can take from others, but in what you can build together. And we had built something beautiful.